have to build on two things this year: your skill and your will. You cannot survive without any one of it. So if you have a good skill with you, make sure that you also have a positive will that you will fight this time and we will definitely come out of it. So I always tell all the students that those of you who have sustained in this year, you have able to manage this pandemic. I can assure you nothing bigger will be able to impact you in future. So just stay tuned and maintain your skill and your will. Everything will fall in place.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the People Hum interview series. This is your host Neha at People Hum. People Hum is an end to end, one view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the People Hum blog and channel that receives more than 200,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. We have with us today Monica Marwa. Monica is an HDM Award 2018 winner with expertise in major facets of HR in the leadership role. She has more than a decade of global and multicultural experience. She proficiently leads pan-India campus relations with strategically achieving campus numbers across top engineering and management institutes. She has previously worked in fields of talent acquisition, HR branding, change management, industry academia interface, and employee engagement. Welcome to People Hum, Monica. Thank you so much for giving us your time today, and I really look forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much, Neha, for having me here. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Monica. So let me start by asking you about your journey in HR and leadership. So could you give us a gist of your past and perhaps what you've learned along the way?
Okay, thank you so much for this question. I think this is pretty close to my heart because for me, journey in my HR fraternity was looking like that I was pretty prepared from my 10th. I was clear while I was looking forward to make my aspiration that I have to appear for an MBA and then finally make my career into HR because right now while I'm doing a campus hiring, most of the students seems pretty confused that what are they supposed to do and they are struggling even after 12th or doing their graduation that they're not so clear. But I don't know, somehow I was really passionate about being into HR from the beginning and I wanted to make my career into that. And thank God that I could prosper my career into the same direction. But I think God has given me a lot of experiments throughout my journey. So when I joined my first organization, I got to know I was the first employee of that company. So after joining, so that was quite interesting because I had to build everything from scratch. I had to hire the entire team that was into telecom research and consulting. So I had to understand the business. I had to make sure the policies and procedures are in place. I still remember my first hire was the general manager of that company because we have to begin somewhere, right? So, and those small moments which gives you a real pride was something which was a foundation for my experience. So that was something which helped me understand how to build a business from scratch, understand that you have to be open to learn as and when it comes. And specifically, one important thing which I learned because that organization was headed by a marketing head and he wanted to get into a telecom consulting firm. And he taught me doing a recruitment was not just using a key search word. Majorly, recruitment is more about mapping a role to the business, to the location, and then finalizing zero down to the candidate. So it's more about understanding that profile better rather than just knowing about this key search words. So I think that is something which has given me a clear acumen while I'm doing a lot of hiring throughout my journey. So I did not, I mean, I find it that that base was so strong that had helped me make sure that I do the right hiring throughout my journey. So I think that is very, very important for anybody to understand that. From there, my journey began, and I moved into NCR, and NCR was. I still remember when I started my career was into more about HR generalist profile, and then I have moved into recruitments. along with campus hiring. But one thing NCR taught me was using of technology, because since it is a fintech organization, so we have to be open to learn about the technologies. And being into HR, usually people hesitate to use the technology. So I still remember, I know PeopleSoft, I know SAP, I know Talio, Workday. I'm an HR analytics certified person. I've done an HR design thinking certification. Recently, I've done negotiation mastery. And talking about technology, so Agile HR was my major acumen, which was precisely for IT technology. So I think that has given me such a confidence that whenever we adapt to a change, I'm pretty comfortable to that. So I never realized that something's new happening. Will I be able to go with the flow or not? So I think that had really given me a good base. So I understand that open to learn. Second is majorly adapting the technology is majorly a key thing which is there, which I've learned throughout my journey. Also, my profile is little diversified. I've been to fintech organization, then I moved into telecom, and then from pharmaceutical, logistics, and finally back into fintech organizations. So the diverse group of industries. Usually, people are staying in one industry itself. That I have, if I am an e-commerce person, so I'll stick to e-commerce, or if I'm from a telecom, I'll stick to telecom. But I think working into different industries gave me a strong business acumen. I understand industry pretty well. I understand what new changes are happening in that particular industry, and I adapt to that change quicker. So I think experimenting is really important for any new person to explore. Till the time you don't experiment, till the time you do not learn your job truly, you will not be able to position yourself. So I'm happy with what I'm doing. Frankly, throughout my journey, not even a single regret on my any organization, my any profile which I have done. And I've got a very strong relationship with all the organization I've dealt with. Even if I can call back, I mean, I'm connected to all the people whom I've worked so far, all my seniors till now. And the best thing is, like, whenever I'm stuck, I know I have mentors in some of the organization. I can just pick up a call and speak to them. So building a relationship also is very important for anybody to sustain. So three things: open to learn, use of technology, build relationship. That's what I would say.
Definitely. Monica, your journey sounds very interesting. I actually have a follow-up question on that. So you just mentioned that, a lot of students, when they just graduate, they have no idea what they want to do, and you've come across students like that. So do you feel like somewhere, because you knew that, HR is something that you want to do, and also, added to the fact that you got a lot of exposure into a lot of different kind of industries and you got to work there, and you basically had hands-on experience. So do you think the fact that you sort of knew what you wanted to do, plus everything that kept happening to you in your career, helped you get where you are today?
Certainly, and I think I truly believe in the destiny. I truly believe whatever is destined to happen to you, it will. You just need to be strong and positive enough to manage it. So I'll tell you, around after 6 years of my journey, I met with a major accident, and I was completely bedridden for 3 months. I could not get up. I had a slip disc, and I was on wheelchair, rather, I would say. So that was the time when I realized that life could give you anything. I mean, it could happen anything to anybody at any point of time. So that was another key trigger point for me to analyze that whatever I have to do, I have to do it today. I don't know how tomorrow will look like for me. So I've started working 24 hours, or I would say 48 hours per day, because it looks like that. Yes, I have a lot of dream which I want to achieve. So like last year, I had a dream that I have to write a book. I remember I completed writing that book in 3 months, because I need to do it as fast as possible. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's what I would say. It is all destined what you need to do. And now coming back to the students, I think more or less, that's what I was saying. I was blessed enough to get that direction for myself, and fortunately my family was also there to support me, and not to say that why are you not going for an engineering setup, or try this particular thing which is good, or something like that. So things fall in place. I won't say it fall in place. You have to live with it. You have to find your ways through it. But on the other hand, for the students right now, I am progressing to create a program with a lot of my mentors in the faculty, in the grooming in the industry. We are doing an industry academia groups where we are working towards doing a counseling for the students. So the challenge is, rather than talking to the students at the time of their graduation, ideally we should be talking while they're in the schooling time, from their 8th to
Right.
10th, while they are channelizing their energies, what they are supposed to do. And they should start analyzing what they love doing it, rather than thinking at the end, I did not enjoy doing what we are doing right now, right? So I think this is a new age generation. We have to really think from
Absolutely.
their side of the industry, rather than thinking about how we have been grown up. So ideally, that is the thing which I am really working towards at this point of time. Hopefully, you will see something coming out in the next quarter or so. But definitely looking forward to focus on to that, to give a right direction for the students. Problem
Absolutely.
is, we experiment a lot. I want to do my
Mm-hmm.
business, I want to do this job, and then finally realizing this is not my cup of tea.
Absolutely.
So it is very, very important for students to have a program in their schooling to identify what they really love doing it, and focus
Absolutely.
their all energies into that. So that's what I would say everybody should do that. And that is the guidance I would give it to all the students. And that's what I do it right now whenever I'm connecting with the
Mm-hmm.
students in the campuses.
Absolutely. So I feel like that's a very interesting take. And I also want to highlight here that, whatever you just mentioned, the idea that students should get to know about all of this during their schooling so that they can have a better direction in life. I would also like to add that this is probably not something that the generation before us would have thought about. So that leads me to my next question. So you've spoken about generational shifts and their associated problems earlier. So could you enlighten our audience on how that can lead to workplace problems as well? And more importantly, how can leaders look to resolve those problems?
Okay, I could hear multiple questions into this one, but let me just try and answer. First is the generational shift, if I say, is precisely, it's a technology kid now. So I call this generation as a technology kid because they are too comfortable with the technology and they want their answers to be as quicker and faster. Their patience level have dropped down. So they do not have time for any responses to come up that, yes, I will come back to you, or let me just work around to this particular one. Versus now for them is like, I know how to get my answers done and how to find my own ways. So you tell me what is it you have it for me. So like, which is clearly WIFM, we call it, what is in it for me specifically. So that's the kind of a generation we are dealing it. So everything has to have something for them. So now with this particular thing, there is a lot of change in the workplace. Initially, leaders used to think that, yes, whatever I will tell this person, they will do it that way. Versus the work is like, they said, give me a clarity on what is expected out of me, and I will do it as per my terms and conditions. You rest assured that how it is being done, but I'll take care of it. So the version have changed drastically. So they are not looking out for direction, they are looking out for an output, what you are expecting out of them. So now we are changing a lot of it's a mindset change we are giving in the organization. So there's a lot of learning and development teams are focusing on openness. They're talking about evolving the roles. So it's no longer called as a team management role, rather it is more about, you do a little goal setting and give them a clarity about the business. So each role is aligned to return on investment. Each role is aligned that
Right.
what is this person is supposed to do. Even to an extent, now millennials are open enough in asking, if I am being paid this much in this organization, what is my share in the overall organization, right? How much, what you think I'm worth it. So I'm ready to expand that worth for you. What is it you are going to give it back to me, right? So that transition is evolved into extent that our leaders are not prepared to answer such kind of a question still.
Yes.
So that is the curve which organizations are now filling it up with a lot of millennial specific procedures. So that's where agile HR came into the existence, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where you need to. I mean, we don't require policies anymore. We do not require procedures anymore. We want you to be open to share what is it the organization is planning to do, what is the purpose, why are we doing it, and ultimately how are we going to achieve that. If we build that thing, automatically everybody will fall in the place. So I still remember why these HR policies are existing. Do you have any thought about it? Why companies have HR policies?
I
I
feel like
mean,
they, my guess is that it is only to streamline processes. But then I also do realize that that comes from a view where you just assume that everybody falls into a particular category and they would all be okay with those policies.
correct. So the purpose of doing creating an HR policies was precisely just to
Hmm.
ensure there are no bypasses people will create. So
Right.
finding that one wrongdoer,
Hmm.
that was the only reason that if somebody does something wrong, how we can avoid doing that. That was the only limit of creating a
Hmm.
framework, that this is the framework you have to fit in yourself. Versus now, it is not the scenario anymore. When you are giving an empathetic situation to an employee, when we are giving a trust or being an honest altogether, then why are you binding them? Give them a
Absolutely.
freedom, to give them a clarity. That's where startups are being successful now, because startups are
Hmm.
being honest to each other. This is the money which I have, this is the money I want to earn, do it anyhow, right? And that's where every people start focusing towards that. So there are no policies initially, right, in startups. And till the time they do not have policies, they grow. The moment they have policies and procedures, the kind of the speed automatically get reduced, because we
Yes.
limit their energies. So that's
Yes.
what I would say, that that's a generational gap, which currently each one of us are trying to build in, to make sure it's streamlined better.
I feel like the concept behind understanding generation gap is not that you belong to a particular set of people who think differently and we think differently, and because we are the newer generation, we are better than you. But I feel like there's a lot of that actually, lot of information and a lot of thinking that actually goes behind that. So thank you so much for actually illustrating that and making it more relatable for us, in order to actually understand it. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So, moving on to the next question that I want to ask you, with the pandemic leading to a shift in the way that businesses work, how would you say that change management interlinks with employee engagement, leading to more productive workspaces?
So it's both ways, Physically, we were doing a lot of connect with the people. I'm still missing. I mean, you shake hand with the people, you do a lot of hugs. That really passes on the positive energy to the people easily. So that was an
Yes.
easy employee engagement, to be honest, in
Yes,
the
yes.
organization. Versus with pandemic, you are talking to the screen, and at times you realize you're just talking to a laptop, or you're talking to a person in front of you. So it's a different version altogether. But I think
Absolutely.
there is a beautiful change which organizations have adapted during this pandemic, is being transparent and being open to talk. So communication had played a very critical role at this point of time, and that is something which is a nice change to adapt. There were a lot of tools and technologies we were talking from last 5 years: AI, robotics, IoT. We were talking, and all these tools were available with us, but we were not comfortable with them, because we were cozy enough in our own zone, that yes, fine, let it be, the things are going in that particular manner, why to change? But this pandemic had forced us to change, to adapt to the things which are already existing. And it did not took much time. I mean, we were working fast enough in the technology, as quicker as possible. University hiring never had a chance to do a virtual hiring. We used to travel to all the companies every year, and we are missing it badly. That, yeah, the connect with the students, that vibe in the colleges, that positive energy altogether we used to get in the campuses, we're missing that badly. Now we're talking to them over the call, that's fair. But the point is, like, I won't say that the pandemic have shifted the entire employee engagement, but on a positive side, if I talk about it, that communication played a very critical role. And I'll give you an example. In my current organization, we used to have a quarterly meet with our CEOs, where he used to give us revenue updates, what's going well, what's not going well, so on and so forth. During pandemic, now we are connecting with him in every 15 days. Every 15 days, he's connecting with us all across 35,000 employees of NCR, where he's sharing what's working, what's not working. Even if we are making losses, at times, we all have got the right information at the right time. So we could work together to ensure that how we can overcome this challenge. We all make sure that this is a challenge at hand. Now, let us find a solution. So, having a right set of communication and being transparent, once you open up with your employees, they are always engaged. The worry is like when you used to do a lot of employee engagement activities just to hide a lot of information. Whenever you know there is a performance appraisal time, you're not paid them well, you will try to add a party or some other things altogether just to compensate that. We were just trying to do a framework to avoid those conversations, that let's avoid it, let's have party, let's enjoy, and let's move on further to the next year. Everything will be fine next year. Versus now it is clear, guys, we do not have money, this is what we have, this is what you're going to get it. Let's work together so that next year whenever we have money, we'll be able to give it across to you. That has become such easy to discuss with them, that has, because even employees have become more comfortable that yes, if you are communicating rightly with us, we are not going to leave you, we will be with you, this organization, because we understand that you are making a right progress. And that can only happen once that pandemic was there and people accepted that right of communication.
Yes.
So I think that is the shift which has automatically driven into engaged employees rather than doing a lot of. So we have done a lot of activities as well throughout this one. There are a lot of virtual webinars, activities,
Yes.
fun. So we have Kahoot, we have scribbling, a lot of things we have done online.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's where technology came into the picture. But it is more engaging when you are clearly communicating with them. So now my team members call me and say, Monica, I'm not in mood to work today. I'm really exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted with whatever happening all around. I won't ask even a second thing. I said, please take one off, relax. Nobody's asking anything to you. Just spend time with your family. That is the kind of a culture it has imbibed during pandemic. So more open, more communicative, and more trustworthy. That's what I would say pandemic have done to us.
Absolutely. I feel like what all of us can infer, a part of what you've spoken, what we can infer from that is that the definition of employee engagement has indeed changed with the pandemic. And it is time that we broaden what it means to actually engage employees in an organization, because what existed before the pandemic was a completely different scenario. And what's existing now and probably will exist in the near future is entirely different. So especially for people in the HR domain, I feel like it's very important to acknowledge that. So thank you for that perspective. It was wonderful.
Yeah, true. Thank you. And I
Uh,
think, yeah, I'm really happy with the way our entire HR fraternity have grown, adapted to this change, and came up with newer initiatives to understand people and be there with them. Everybody, I mean, I won't say even a single organization who have not done well. Rather, everybody have tried their best to be there with their employees in this time. So this is a good change altogether, I
yes,
would say.
yes, that's definitely inspiring. So
Yeah.
for those looking to step into the agile HR domain, which is more evolving now than it perhaps ever has been, so what advice would you give to those people?
So I think agile HR is something which is there from last couple of years only, but still there's a lot of scope in India because most of our organizations are not adapting to that way of version. Ideally, if the companies are technology people are following agile frameworks, or you talk about Scrum ceremonies, or you talk about iterations and everything, and if an HR does not understand that, so take an example, I have to hire a person who will be working into an agile mindset. Agile framework is nothing, it's about a mindset. It is majorly adapting to a newer change as fast as possible. So if you think that you're hiring for the organization and you do not have an understanding what agile is all about, how do you think you can do a justification to that particular role? You're telling that I want to hire a person who will be following the agile processes, but I wanted to see, are you open to work in the shifts? Are you open to manage five people reporting into you and working into this particular manner? So one way you're asking, free up your mind, and second way you're asking, limit your thoughts. So you can't be contradicting altogether, right? So it is very, very important for you to be an agile HR professional from few perspective. One, we are dealing with millennials. Their mindset is clear that you let us know our vision, our goal, we will do it our way. So obviously our existing policies which are there in the system from last 10 or 20 years will not make any value for them. So you have to make sure that you change your travel policies, you change your leave policies, you change your LTA policies. That won't work for them, right? Similarly, second, talking about the compensation front, till the time you do not tell them this is, you say 20% is your performance bonus. Is it something which I need to perform or the organization need to perform? How I'm going to get that money? Till the time you do not have that conversation with them and you are ready to answer those questions, you will not be able to deal with millennials at all. So I think adapting to that. Third, now talking about DNI, my new role, which has come up within diversity and inclusion along with my UR role. So it has a beautiful blend, which I'm working at this point of time. So, I have to be clear enough. There is no racism in the organization. There is no challenge that my manager will say I need to hire only male member, or I need to hire only female member, or maybe I do not want to hire a disabled candidate or a differently able candidate. So that unconscious biases we have to remove from each and every one, and that can only happen when our processes are defined in a manner which is too agile to adapt. So that's where agile HR come into the picture, when you're making a sequence that whatever latest is required in the industry, you adapt to that and move on quickly. And if it doesn't work fine, right, let's make another change and move on. So agile really talks about it, making a modifications and adapting to it and then moving forward. It is not fixed that whatever I have written in the policy, it is not going to change for the next 2 years. It will remain like that. That won't happen because you really don't know what will happen next year. So that adaptation of the rules, process, industry, I would say, our employees as a whole is important from an agile HR perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for talking about it, because I'm sure that our audience, while listening to this right now, I'm sure that a lot of people are already into the HR domain, of those who are listening. And I'm also sure that there are some who are thinking about getting into the HR domain or have just entered into it. So what you just explained to us is probably something for them to consider as well. So thank you for that. And lastly, Monica, do you have any passing remarks for our audience?
So I would say there's no passing remark, but this is a time which is happening right now. So there are weeks when decade happen, okay, and there is a decade when nothing happens in week, and we are in that scenario right now. Um, uh, Within this year only, I have gone through with a lot of learning, with a lot of new adaptations of processes, all the tools which are there. But emotionally, I have to be very, very strong, and that's what I would tell each and everyone. You have to build on two things this year: your skill and your will. You cannot survive without any one of it. So if you have a good skill with you, make sure that you also have a positive will that you will fight this time and we will definitely come out of it. So I always tell all the students that those of you who have sustained in this year, you have able to manage this pandemic, I can assure you nothing bigger will be able to impact you in future. So just stay tuned and maintain your skill and your will. Everything will fall in place.
That is very valuable advice, Monica. I feel like we all needed to hear that. So thank you for that and for this great conversation. I had a great time. I'm hoping you did too. And I wish you and your business, thank you. I wish you and your business all the best ahead.
Thank you so much, Neha. Pleasure talking to you. And I hope I was able to answer the questions.
Yes, you were.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.